I get so shaky and I feel so weak. I tell my eyes look the other way.
Alright, we're making a little bit of progress here on this Spartan. I've got the plug-in for the speaker wires. I'll be taking these colored things off. I just use those for guidance when I soldered everything together. And I've also got the power cord better, looking a whole lot better, and anchored to the chassis on the rear with one of those plastic bands. I'll show you that in a minute. Anyway, for those of you, I still have a couple of things to do. I got to work on this grid cap wire. For those of you who may have never seen one of these, this is a 25 cycle radio. We're used to 50 and 60 cycle transformers and all that sort of jazz. This one, I stated earlier in the video when I showed everyone the radio that I was going to have to redo a little bit. I mentioned that it originally came out of Connecticut. Well, someone jumped up and said, well, it didn't come out of Connecticut. Well, actually it did. It came out of Connecticut on eBay. I wasn't very clear out of that. Anyway, this radio was in Connecticut, and along the top edge of the United States back in the early 30s, the power was 25 cycle. In Canada and the northeastern states up around that era, it might have been even toward the west, the power was all supplied was 25 cycles. And this is a large, thick 25 cycle power transformer from up in that region at that time. So if you've never seen one, now these things really run cool. You can run them on 60 cycles, no problem at all, and but they really run cool. From what I understand, a lot of the old ham operators, when they built their own rigs, wanted these transformers because they do run so cool. I mean, right now I got stuff coming out of my transmitter.
Good afternoon, it's Craig. Beach Boys, Marvin Gaye, Paul Revere, the Raiders in the next set. I have more quizzes on my Facebook page.
Works pretty good. Works pretty good.
To rate your husband, you can rate your wife.
Got a couple other things to do to it. We'll get it back in the cabinet.
Also, what's the best?
Kind of an interesting story. Back when I first got this radio, it did not play at all. And I had to work on it. And I thought it was my second radio, but it might have been my third. I'd have to go back and look. I just don't want to take the time to do that. But I remember the night that I finally turned this radio on after messing with it, putting all new caps and whatever resistors were needed, and I turned it on and I got music like this. I'll tell you what, it was really an exciting time for me. I called on the telephone Rick McWhorter, and he was the one that cranked me up on all these radios, and he really got me fired up with his videos when I first went looking for them on the internet. There he was. And I said, Rick, listen to this, and he probably went, oh, ho hum, yawn, another guy with a radio that finally got one going, Well, to me, it was a big deal. And I let him listen to it, And that's exactly what he was listening to. It was looking just like this on the bench. And he said, congratulations and all that. And I appreciate that because that motivated me to keep going to the next radio and the next radio. So, that's how it's done. One guy, motivates the next. One guy says congrats, and keeps pumping. We pump each other up. Keep the hobby going, guys. I just received, just a few seconds ago, while I was filming the segment on this dial glass, wifey handed me an envelope from somebody named RB in Kentucky. Who the heck is RB in Kentucky? I don't know who RB is. I'm going to have to look it up, though. I will find out. And he said, yeah, he watched the last Mishmash video. No, he didn't. He watched the video where I said I was going to rework my daughter's Sparton Model 34. And I was going to put large washers on the bottom because they, the ones that I didn't like the way it was set up. And look what was in this envelope he sent. He says, for the 34 Spartan rework, RB. Look at that. Cool washers that'll work perfectly. Flat washers. Man, now that's neat. I'm wondering, are these original type things, or there's nothing else in the letter that I could find? Nice and flat, nice and strong, just the kind we need. And I don't know if that's iodized. I don't know why it's that gold color. Might have been painted, might have been made that way. I don't know. But whoever RB is, I appreciate it a whole lot. And once again, we know what that means. Shout out to RB in Kentucky. Well, there are the washers. There's 3 of them on. I've got the 4th screw is out. I have to use it to go to the hardware store on Monday and size some lock washers. I thought I had the right size lock washers, but apparently I don't. So, you know, I'm going to have to walk in with one and make sure I get the right size. Alright, now what I've done is I have removed the legs that were on there that were, you know, had the nail in the center, if you recall from the part 1 of this video redo. And I have some stick-on felt round ones. I pick them up at the Lowe's. I get a whole card for them for a few bucks. And what I'm going to do is put it right over the top, right where the old one used to be. I'm just going to stick it right on there. And now we've got a nice soft pad. And if the thing ever falls off, all I got to do is just stick on another one. No big deal. They stay on pretty darn tight though. Won't scratch the furniture. And here's the power cord with the little loop that I have it secured to the chassis. It was kind of very convenient. There was a hole already there. I didn't even have to bore one. Well, that's it. That is it. I'm going to call this one Restored Again, and this time done much better than last time. Well, let's fire it up and see if it still works. Oh yeah, almost forgot. We got one more thing. Ed Schutz. He's the name of the guy that runs Renovated Radios. You'll remember, if you keep up with my videos, you'll remember the 140 Atwater Kent 145 we restored. I sent him off one of the wooden knobs and said, why don't you start reproducing those? And, you know, that way in the future, if anybody needs them, any hobbyist needs them, they'll have them. Well, I decided to go ahead and do this again. I contacted him and I said, are you still in a horse trading mood? I said, I have a Sparton Model 67 that has wooden knobs. And I've had people contact me wanting me to give them dimensions of the knobs and everything and send pictures and all that so they could make them on their own lathe at home. I said, I need 4 plastic knobs. For another radio I have, an Emerson, if I send you one of these wooden knobs, you can reproduce it, you know, and in return send me the 4 plastic knobs that you have, that I know you make, for my radio, and then we'll call everything even. What do you think? And I said, that way in the future people will have, you know, reproduction knobs, and he does an excellent job for their model, their Sparton Model 67s. He says, you know, you got yourself a deal. So that's what I've done. So that's why this knob is missing. It'll be back shortly from Ed. He does great work. He really does. Right now I'm feeding station TWKD off the internet into my transmitter, and we're transmitting it over to the Spartan, so let's see how it sounds. Still sounds great, huh? Great stuff. I'll tell you what, let's see how we can tune in some stations here, see how sensitive it is after the alignment. Alright, we're set up for AM broadcast, just coming through off my antenna I got hanging out in a tree right now. That's the wife's stove making that static.
Rise and go to my father and say unto him, I've sinned against
some
heaven
really
and
good
thy sight,
sensitivity
no more.
now.
And now it's turned into a full-fledged, full-scale riot.
Whoa. The wife's doing some baking right now. The stove's going on and off, that sort of thing.
The riots, shouting. Praise the Lord, that was the night that I prayed through. I prayed through.
number is 855-2124.
Real good. Real good reception. Look at that. Boy, I'll tell you what, it didn't pick up that many stations before. I mean, we're picking them up about every couple of kilocycles here. Amazing. We're going to run out sooner or later. There's not much more beyond this area. Oh, there's some. I'm real happy with it. I think it turned out much better than I did the first time around. I appreciate everybody watching. And now I'll go ahead, and as soon as that knob gets in, I'll get this radio back to my daughter. Until next time, this is John.
Left with nothing of their own. That's when the people of the Lord open up their homes. Love goes the extra mile.